They found him unconscious in his Virginia home. Emergency services arrived within minutes, but by the time they reached him, it was already too late. Jerry Connolly, the longtime U.S. representative from Virginia, was declared dead at the age of 74. The man who spent decades fighting for justice, public service, and peace had taken his final breath in silence. No farewell speech, no press conference, just an empty chair and a nation left stunned. The news spread like wildfire across Capitol Hill. For many Americans, it wasn't just the passing of a politician. It was the silencing of one of the few consistent voices in modern governance. Connolly wasn't a media darling. He didn't rely on headlines or viral moments. He believed in consistent, grounded service. He wasn't perfect, but he was present, always. Jerry Connolly had served Virginia's 11th congressional district since 2009. But long before his time in Congress, his journey began in a small Boston neighborhood. Born in 1950 to working-class parents, his father died when he was just a child. Raised by his mother, he learned early on about sacrifice, discipline, and the struggles of ordinary families. These lessons never left him. He didn't go to Congress to become rich. After completing his education, a literature degree from Maryknoll College and a master's in public administration from Harvard, he could have chosen a high-paying corporate job. Instead, he joined public service. His work began in the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where he developed a strong command of foreign policy. He spent years behind the scenes before stepping into the spotlight. In 1995, Connolly entered local politics by joining the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors. His work there became legendary. Roads were repaired, school budgets expanded, homeless programs gained momentum. Residents often spoke of him as the man who actually listened. In 2003, he was elected chairman of the board. By the time he left for Congress, he had already transformed his community in ways few others had. When he entered Congress in 2009, many doubted whether he would stand out among louder personalities, but he didn't need volume. He relied on consistency. Connolly made his mark through hard work and results. He worked on environmental issues, pushed for affordable housing, and led efforts to improve cybersecurity infrastructure. He knew how to build bipartisan coalitions, something that has become increasingly rare in Washington. One of his most remembered moments was in 2013, during a tense committee hearing on the IRS scandal. While many members resorted to theatrics, Connolly calmly demanded clear answers. His sharp questions and well-prepared documents stood out. "You don't yell when you have facts," he once said in an interview. "You let the truth do the work." That single line was shared widely and became a guiding principle for many young lawmakers. His advocacy for federal workers became his signature cause. In Washington, a city filled with federal employees, Connolly became a protector. He pushed for fair wages, defended workers' rights, and introduced the Fair Act to give civil servants a voice. One federal worker said in a tribute, "He made us feel seen. That alone meant everything." In 2023, Connolly's district office was attacked. A man entered the office with a baseball bat and injured two of his staffers. While Connolly was not present, his response was swift and firm. He visited his staff in the hospital, called for stronger protections for public servants, and declared, "We cannot let fear break our system." That moment reminded everyone that leadership isn't just about laws, it's about courage during chaos. His death shook colleagues across party lines. Democratic and Republican lawmakers paused for a moment of silence in the House chamber. Tributes flooded in from every direction. President Joe Biden said, "He was one of the good ones, steady, honest, and unshakable." Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi wrote, "Jerry Connolly gave dignity to the job. He showed what public service was supposed to look like, but it wasn't just politicians mourning. Teachers, veterans, immigrants, and government workers all remembered how he helped them. He visited classrooms not for photo ops, but to actually talk to students. He helped veterans apply for benefits. He celebrated new citizens at naturalization ceremonies. His idea of service was personal, not performative. His speeches weren't flashy, but they were meaningful." At a town hall in 2016, when a woman broke down crying over healthcare fears, Connolly left the stage, hugged her, and promised to fight for her family. That moment didn't go viral. It didn't make the headlines, but it stayed in the hearts of those who were there. That was Connolly. Action, not applause. Now compare him to some modern political figures who measure success in likes and retweets. Connolly stayed focused. While others hosted rallies, he hosted community forums. While others picked fights, he picked issues. And while others made promises, he made progress. He understood the weight of his role, not as a celebrity, but as a servant. His health had been declining quietly. Friends noticed he seemed more tired lately. He missed a few scheduled meetings, but Connolly, in typical fashion, kept working. Even on the week he passed, he was preparing to speak on a government funding bill. That level of dedication is rare. His legacy is not in grand speeches, but in quiet actions. The school funding that prevented layoffs, the infrastructure bills that repaired local bridges, the federal support that kept government families afloat. He left behind not just memories, but measurable impact. Now, the seat he held is empty, and the question remains, who can fill it? Will the next person continue his quiet commitment commitment? Will they focus on people or publicity? How many lawmakers today can we say truly served without self-interest? Connolly's passing is not just a political loss, it's a cultural one. He reminded us that service doesn't have to be loud to be meaningful, that showing up again and again makes the real difference. We live in a time where flash matters more than facts, where leaders perform instead of serve. But Jerry Connolly stood as a counterpoint. His message was clear: do the work, speak with facts, protect the people who protect the country. In recent years, Connolly had taken a strong stance against political extremism. While many leaders avoided calling out their own party's flaws, he wasn't afraid to speak up. During the January 6th Capitol attack, Connolly condemned the violence without sugarcoating his words. He called it a stab in the chest of democracy and urged both sides to reflect on the growing culture of hate and misinformation. His speeches that week were shared widely in classrooms and political science lectures. He believed the truth should never be a partisan issue, and that silence in moments of crisis was a betrayal of duty. Connolly also had a quiet but firm impact on foreign policy. He believed in diplomacy over dominance. He served on the House Foreign Affairs Committee and was vocal about issues in the Middle East, Eastern Europe, and Latin America. He consistently pushed for responsible aid, support for democratic allies, and strategic partnerships that benefited both sides. One of his most quoted lines during a 2021 hearing was, "America's strength isn't just in its weapons, but in its word." That philosophy shaped many of his votes and public statements. He urged Congress to remember the value of reputation and restraint. Beyond the political arena, Connolly was a devoted family man. He often credited his wife Kathy and daughter Caitlin for keeping him grounded. Unlike many public figures who shield their personal lives entirely, Connolly spoke openly about how his family influenced his decisions. "If it doesn't make sense to Caitlin, it probably doesn't make sense at all," he once joked. This human side made him relatable. Constituents didn't just see him as a politician. They saw a father, a husband, and a neighbor. He attended local festivals, walked in parades, and visited senior homes, not for cameras, but because he genuinely enjoyed connecting with people. As tributes pour in from both sides of the aisle, we're left with a rare moment of unity. In a time when division seems to dominate everything, Connolly's death has reminded many of what public service can look like when done with heart and purpose. But the real tribute won't be the speeches made in Congress or the headlines printed in newspapers. It will be in the actions of those he inspired. The young policy student who decides to enter public service, the new representative who chooses facts over fame, the citizen who demands better leadership. Jerry Connolly's story is a reminder that real change often comes quietly, but it lasts forever. Even after his passing, Jerry Connolly's influence will continue through the legislation he championed and the values he upheld. His name may not always be on billboards, but his work lives on in the safer streets, stronger communities, and fairer systems he helped create. The congressional staff he mentored, the young leaders he encouraged, and the countless citizens he supported, they all carry pieces of his legacy. And that is perhaps the greatest measure of a public servant's life. Not the number of votes won, but the number of lives touched. Now the responsibility falls on us. Not just his successor in office, but every citizen who believes in service, honesty, and results. Will we carry forward his model of leadership? Will we honor his memory by demanding better from those who represent us? Or will we let his values fade into history, like so many forgotten names on plaques and buildings? The choice is ours. But one thing is certain. Jerry Connolly's life proved that politics, when done right, can still be a force for good. As we reflect on his death, we must ask ourselves, what kind of leadership do we want? Are we chasing popularity or purpose? Are we supporting voices of reason or noise? Jerry Connolly may be gone, but the space he leaves behind is a challenge to all of us. Do we still believe in quiet integrity, or have we become too distracted to notice when it's missing?